My name is Liron Damri, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Forter. Forter is a four-years-old company in Israel. I do have to, again, say to you, as an entrepreneur in Israel, it is really, really important that you guys move away and simplify. It is essential for us to keep on flourishing and keep growing the businesses in Israel. What I was here to talk about today is about major trends that are happening in the fintech industry, and especially in the payment space. And I have a nice presentation, but I think that over the past week, we had 4 events that actually tell the story and make it very, very simple to track and to really draw those mega trends. The first one is, of course, the launch of the iPhone X with a major capability. You'll be able to open up the iPhone with just looking at it. So it gets as simple as it is. If you may think the last generation was just fingerprint. But what really customers are driven the industry to do is to make sure that not only that it's simple, but it's truly seamless. The experience of logging in, the experience of you, the company, recognizing me, the customer, should be a no-brainer. That's number one. The number 2, Amazon's patent on one-click checkout has expired this week. The one-click experience was shifting fundamentally things for Amazon because it made it clear that even if it wasn't a mass adoption, most of the people doesn't use one-click very often. Many of the people are annoyed from the fact that they didn't even notice that they have made checkout. But just the notion that you're able to say, I want it, and in 2 days, it's going to be out your door, really revolutionized commerce for all of us. So in that regard, the ability to open up this patent and make it available to more and more companies is really a shifting point in the way the industry looks at itself, and of course, when it comes to payments. The third interesting event that happened this week is that the number 1 celeb in Wall Street, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, is calling Bitcoin a fraud. So we used to talk about whether Bitcoin is a bubble or whether Bitcoin is a currency or some kind of a commodity. And we need to understand that, at least from a story perspective, Bitcoin is going to save it all, right? It's safe, it's secure, no data leaks. It's as easy to use, so that's the currency of the future. When we have such a significant public figure who stands up and say, hey, this is fraud, and takes the Bitcoin down 8%, it really gets us to think about whether this is indeed the way to go with blockchains and currencies that are cryptocurrencies. Is this the one silver bullet for solving the industry's issues? But I think the most important one, and some of the people that talked ahead of me actually mentioned it, but I think that no one that doesn't live and very much is familiar with the financial system in the US can't really recognize the importance and the size of the Equifax breach. When you have a credit bureau, that's your financial ID. Every major financial decisions a person made is available to Equifax. Your first time you wanted to get a loan, the first time you wanted to get an auto, the first time you wanted to go to university, you probably took some kind of a debt for education loan, and of course when you got a home. All these transactions, all this data is potentially breached and leaked to the public. So when I talk today about going and really trying to understand where are we going to as a company, what are we thinking about when it comes to actually developing the next game changer for this industry, we're really talking about the notion of we have to assume that every information, every detail that we have, it's no longer passwords, it's no longer Yahoo accounts, it's really about your past history, it's your decisions, your capacity, your share of wallet. You should assume that this is something that has to be, you have to assume that it's breach, and therefore when thinking about how can we balance between the need and the customer request to push us to make payment, something that you don't think about, instead of thinking about payments and payment methods, customers are pushing us to think about customer interactions. We have to manage those interactions in a much better scale, in a much bigger scale, in a much more multidimensional aspect. So it's no longer e-commerce and conventional retail, it's omni-channel. It is not only dollars, but rather you have cryptocurrencies and you have the conventional currency, but you also have coupons, you have points, you have loyalties, and all of that has to be taken into consideration. So when you think about how to provide the very basic fundamental aspect of what are we trying, what is it that really generates the next level and the next generation of payments and commerce, it will be the ability to establish trust between the customer and the merchant, but it has to happen without heavily relying on past authentication methods, passwords, security questions, SMSs, or what have you. This one thing that was really keeping Amazon apart in the way they experience, that they let the customer experience the ecosystem. And this one single thing that allows, again, through the iTunes ecosystem, to drive Apple's ability to establish this long-term relationship. And I think that, again, it was mentioned. You go to the Apple Store, you create an engagement, then you go back, you don't think about it, you just buy an app, zero interaction, zero thinking about payment. So making fintech and making payments something that you just take for granted and make sure that that's completely simplified has to have this component of trust. And that's what Forter is here to establish and develop. And today we're doing it with the mega retailers in the United States, thinking about how to bring this level of trust, how to make it clear that regardless of the device, regardless of the payment method, regardless of whether you're in checkout and typing in the credit card or just having this loyalty points that you apply in a different point throughout the checkout, we will be there and gives you this thumbs up to make sure that you can trust and have this commerce with full confidence and with no other hassle. Thank you very much.